Hi, friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. I'm Logan Clements, one of your co hosts. And in this week's episode, we are sitting down with one of our guests, Necoya Tyson, to talk about a topic that honestly I was thrilled to be talking about. It's a little uncomfortable, but also so real for what we do in the events industry. We were talking about knowing when to let go of an event client. We talk about everything about scarcity to alignment, thinking about your no's and your yeses. And you're just going to walk away again, no matter if you work for yourself or if you work for someone else, there is something here for you because unfortunately, we're not all going to be the right fit for everybody. And Necoya guides us through some of the questions that you should think about as you evaluate your client relationships. So without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another week of the Better Events Podcast. We are happy, as always, to be with you, but especially happy today because we have an awesome guest on this episode. We are going to be talking about when to let go or fire a client with Necoya Tyson. And I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to Logan to introduce her today.
Yes, thank you, Mary. This is such an important topic. And if you don't know Necoya Tyson is the visionary entrepreneur and driving force behind Lightsey Event Solutions, LES, a leading conference and trade show management company with a passion for creating unparalleled event experiences and a keen understanding of the intricacies of the industry. Necoya has built a reputation for excellence and innovation. Wow, Necoya, welcome to the podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your lovely bio?
Well, thank you so much for that, Logan. I would say the only thing I'd like to add is I have been doing this, meaning events, for a very long time. I feel like I was born into this, but not really. I just have been doing it for so long. So I am really excited to be here, and I am so glad that we are having this conversation about this really important topic.
It's a really important topic that we haven't really talked about that much, and so we're excited to get into it. Real quick before we do get into it, we like to do a little bit about why we invited our guests. So just a call out that Necoya was a speaker on a panel at the 2024 Better Events Conference. So we're excited to have you back because at that time we knew that we wanted to have you back on the podcast to have a further discussion. Just at that time, I think you spoke on delegation, but you were just such a wealth of knowledge with leadership and events. And so we thought that, it would be wonderful to continue talking with you. And this is a topic I believe you mentioned is one of the things that you enjoy. Is that the right word, talking about, or have learned a lot of lessons? So we're
Yes,
excited.
no, that's a good way to put it, Mary. I would say I don't know if I necessarily enjoy it, but I think I've learned a lot of lessons and still continuing to learn things about this. And so I think for those who are new to the industry, some of the things that I've learned, I'm happy to share. But I also think that those who have been in this for a while, we're continuously learning about all of the crazy things as it pertains to events and contracts and clients and people. And so it's very near and dear to me at this point because I'm working through it all the time.
Absolutely. There's just so much to learn in events and business and all of the things. And so to be able to learn from somebody else's experience, me, unfortunately, I still have to make the mistake myself. I'm like, I still got to learn for myself, but if I can at least hear someone else's perspective, I can keep that in mind. So hopefully that's what this will be for folks. And we're gonna jump right into it. It's like boom, right into this topic.
Yeah.
So how do you know when it's time to let go of a client? What are the red flags?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I will say that there are always signs. I think it's whether or not we're paying attention to them. So that's the big thing for me. The red flags include constant scope creep without added compensation. Like it's just, hey, we would like to add X, Y, and Z to your scope of work, and a lot of times, I'll be honest, I've been like, yeah, sure. Because sometimes they don't say it in a way of we're going to add it to your scope of work. It's just while you're in the middle of working on something else, they add something else in there. So that is probably one of the biggest ones. For me, disrespect or any type of unprofessional communication, that is a huge red flag for me. And I think that post COVID, we have gotten away from proper email etiquette and proper communication with folks. Things are just so quick and fast, but I think that there are times when you'll notice, you'll know when certain words or certain phrases are mentioned, whether in email or whether in speaking, if it's disrespectful or it's unprofessional. Anytime a payment or is missed or delayed, especially after multiple reminders, that is a huge red flag. And then another one I would say is that feeling of dreading working with this group or this person when the client relationship just starts to drain you emotionally or mentally or financially. That really is your cue, because a good partnership really should feel collaborative and not like you're in survival mode. So those are my red flags.
I hope listeners are already taking notes because Necoya, I'm over here. I was like, oof, yeah. I'm just reacting verbally, but on mute so no one has to hear me. So it's just so good and very real. And I think, yeah, to Barry's
Yes.
point, I think when I first started out, I really loved the idea of being everybody. I wanted to work with everyone. There was no type of event I
Yes.
didn't want to work with. And something after almost 9 years now in business, I've been like, no, it's very empowering to be like, I'm not a good fit for everyone, just like not everyone's a good fit for me. And
Absolutely.
letting people go, letting events go, and knowing someone else will do it. And that doesn't make them a bad person or me a bad person for not, like, I think there's some moral part that has been my biggest struggle with it, of feeling like I'm not good enough to do something, or I feel bad for the client if I'm going to let them go, and not
Hmm.
projecting that onto them. Um,
Well, you hit the nail on the head with that not good enough, because I think that that's when we go into a whole different topic, which we probably should talk about at another date, which is it's imposter syndrome. Like you start to feel like, oh my gosh, like can I not do this? Am I not good enough to do that? And it's like, wait a second, I'm doing this, like you said, 9 years, but for me, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm like, I am better than good enough to do this. So sometimes you got to get a little cocky, but not cocky, very confident, I would say. So that I'm learning that still.
you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but like, yeah, what mindset shifts are necessary for event professionals when walking away for a client, especially here's your hard part, if it's a well-known brand or even just like a high-paying gig.
So I would say you really have to shift from scarcity to alignment. Just because a client has money or visibility does not mean that they are the right fit. If a client is out of alignment with your values or your processes or your boundaries, that's a big one. The cost is often greater than the paycheck. So I really had to learn how to value my peace, respect, and that creative autonomy over prestige. I don't want to name any particular brands or anything like that, because I haven't worked with them, but I'm just think of all of the biggest brands that you can think of. It's they have a reputation because of what they do, and how much money they have, and marketing and all that good stuff, but your reputation is built on how you show up, not just who you work with. So it really is about coming forth as your best self and making sure that that is in alignment with what their goals are and what they're looking for.
That's really interesting, and it's just making me think because this year, so I was talking to Logan about this earlier. I have a hard time saying no to clients. I like want everybody. I'm like in the hustle stage. I'm like, yes, 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 let's just take everything. Um, but this was the first year where I had an event that I was like, I will not do this again next year. Like, this cannot
Hmm.
happen. And so I was surprised that day came, believe it or not, despite what I've said before. But so I think it'll happen for somebody, perhaps if they haven't had that experience already. But, I think there becomes a point when it is just so misaligned that you can't continue to do it. And so let's say you get to either that place or whatever place you justify to maybe not work with a client again. How do you professionally end that relationship with them without burning a bridge?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard. And I think long and hard about that. You really should look in my email drafts right now emails drafted that are just like I always do that. I draft an email, especially if it's the height of a moment or a situation. I'm like, let me draft this, and then I'll go back and read it tomorrow and see if I still feel the same way. And if I do, then I'm hitting send. If I don't, it just stays in there so that it's a constant reminder of how I felt that day. But I would say when you are trying to professionally end a relationship without burning a bridge, you always should lead with clarity and not emotion. So I usually have to send a concise message acknowledging the work that we've done together and just stating that our business models or our working styles are no longer aligned. We're not in an alignment right now. But I also like to offer a transition plan or even a referral if that's applicable. Keep the high road, document everything. That is a big one, and really just don't get pulled into that emotional back and forth. A clean break is really better than dragging things out because that can just lead to something else. And so I'm really big on clear, concise, transparent communication when it comes to that. And 9 times out of 10, it really has to do with our business models or our working styles that they're just not aligned anymore.
I had a follow-up question real quick on that. I've heard a lot of people say that they will just try to price someone out. Like they'll bite the bullet, they'll work through it. Then next year they'll price them out so that they don't have to work with them. What do you think about that?
Uh-huh. I don't I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I will say I think in that type of situation, when you are redoing your scope of work, when you're updating your pricing model and all of that, I think that that is okay, especially if they just say yes. That it's now on your terms. It's now on your terms. And sometimes I'm like, this is hazard pay. I pay for all of the craziness and all of the things that have occurred. But I don't disagree with that model. I do understand if people don't do that as well. Sometimes it's just I'm not even going to take the time to update this scope of work and update my contract and all of that because that's more time that you're taking to deal with something that you may not necessarily feel is a good thing for you to continue to deal with. So I definitely understand that, and I've seen that. I've seen it. I've seen all of the things, but sometimes you'll price someone out and they'll say, you know what? We found the money in the budget and we want to keep going. You have to be prepared for that, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a risk there. I think I will admit that my I've done much more of like the soft no, where it's just like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not available those dates. And usually they don't ask a follow-up question of, who or
Right.
what or when.
Yeah.
But that's my, they can't do anything unless someone's like, well, we can move the dates. And I'm just like, okay.
You're like, okay, I got to give the hard no now.
Yeah. I definitely take, I mean, again, yeah, Mary and I both openly talk about being people pleasers. And I think this has been just the hard, I'm a big empath, and I think that has been the biggest hurdle for me personally, because I'm happy to be the bad guy and say no on site for things. And I have
Hmm.
conversations with clients all the time that I'm like, I can say no. I'll be the person. I'm the third party. It's okay. But then
Hmm.
personally, especially if I've built a relationship with them, I think that's been the hardest part for me. But we now need to jump in to tell you about the Better Events Conference. Yes, we are hosting the Better Events Conference for our third year in a row this year, and we are hosting a virtual day on October 1st and an in-person day on December 18th. We have different ticket types available if you're only able to join us virtually on the 1st, or if you would like to join us both days on the 1st and the 18th here in Seattle. Here is a couple more details about our conference.
On Wednesday, October 1st, this is the virtual day. We'll be ditching the PowerPoint and lectures as much as possible and instead focusing on conversation starters, interactive workshops, group consulting, and more. Some of these will be recording, some of these you have to be virtually in the room to experiencing them. On Thursday, December 18th, this is our in-person workshop day. This is where we feature interactive workshops and small group work. You will leave with things like a new system, a new goal, or a new perspective on your event career. We will be gathering, like we said before, at a secret location in downtown Seattle. So it's going to be really fun. More to come on that.
Now you might be saying, Logan and Mary, how do I buy a ticket? So go to bettereventspod.com/conference in the show notes if you want to learn more. We will also put the direct registration link on Swapcard. Tickets range anywhere from $55 to $169. $55, that lower price point, is going to be for the virtual day only on October 1st and access on that day only. So you need to be there live, get all your information, and then you don't get access to the platform afterward. All the way up to $169, which is going to be our highest price point for the all access ticket. That means you're coming to our virtual day October 1st. You get access to replays. You can rewatch things, keep downloading content all over the months, and then come to our in-person day here in Seattle, December 18th. And without further ado, let's get back to the episode. I'd love to get your take on knowing how do you decide when like a challenge that you're having with a client, maybe it's not as deep as one of those red flags you mentioned earlier, but how do you decide when it can be fixed versus when it's time to walk away?
Okay, so for me, in my instance, I have a team. So I have a team of 7 folks, and we all work on different events. And some of us work on the same event, but it's on a larger scale. So we each have a different role. I think that for me, when someone on my team is feeling away or feeling like this is just too much, or they have encountered something that was unethical, or that just wasn't wrong, I mean wasn't right, I always like to speak with my clients about the situations first before I'm just like, oh, I'm done. Again, it goes back to that clear and open, honest, transparent communication. But I think sometimes that can be difficult for the person on the receiving end, because they're either not expecting you to say anything, because going back to what you said, we're people pleasers and you didn't say anything about it before. This is now the 3rd time that I've done it. So, but it's like, for me, I can deal with a lot of things. I have tough skin, and I can work through that. But I think when you are affecting my team, that's when I'm like, hold on, like we gotta stop. We have to pause and I have a conversation, because there's no way we're gonna be able to get to the next thing until we resolve this one.
I had, for me too, it was a good exercise. You talked about having drafts in your emails, and that was for me. If I had my gut has been getting honed in year on year. I feel like my gut's getting better, because I can always hindsight look back and be like, I had a weird feeling, I just didn't know what it was. And I think a mentor told me to do it, was like draft the email, and this was something I volunteered at. I was not getting paid, but it was sucking too much negative energy. It just wasn't what I wanted it, and I drafted my resignation email essentially. And the act of drafting it, I felt lighter. Like I could breathe. Like it was like one of those things where I hadn't hit send yet, but it was like, this is the right thing. And yes, let me just sleep on it and look at it with clear eyes tomorrow to make sure the wording is the way I want it, because I want it direct but nice, and not burning bridges, making sure we never know where people land 2-3 years from now. So you want to leave it on a high note, even if you want to sit there and tell them all the reasons why. It's not you, it's them, but you're not going to actually put that in writing. So that has been a good gauge, I would say, also for listeners. And I don't know if you've done anything similar there with walking away.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And a great point, Logan, when you said you felt so much better, like after you wrote that and you went back and you read it, and it was so much clarity, wasn't it? It was just like, oh, I feel lighter, I feel good, but I just feel like that is an opportunity for other things to come in, other opportunities to come your way, and for you to be able to deal with it. But going back to you saying, you're getting better about trusting your gut. If something feels off, especially even in the early phases, it will only amplify over time. So really trust your gut. And I'm such a good reader of people, and I'm so good at just like having one interaction with a person, and really being able to like really nail down what this person's quirks are, what makes them tick, what are the great things about them, what are the things that they may need to work on, but how me as a person and what I do, how can that help them? Again, goes back to people pleasing though. Like I want to help everyone. I want to see the good in everyone, but everyone does not have good in them. Okay. Sometimes they're just like, I'm gonna do this because I can. I'm gonna do this because I take advantage of things. Sometimes that's just what I do. But you have to think about the world that we live in. There are givers and there are takers, and we just have to figure out which side we want to be on. So
A couple episodes ago, actually, our topic was the ethics of events. And I feel like a lot of what you're saying actually aligns with some of those conversations that we were having, just like your ethics, your values, and all of that. So, yes, it's very, very applicable to our past conversation. If you wouldn't mind sharing a specific thing that you might not enjoy, what's one client behavior that's an immediate deal breaker for you? You're like, no matter what, that's not it, no matter the budget, maybe besides what you've already shared.
Hmm. I would say I, I don't deal well with untruths. That's very hard for me. And so I think sometimes you don't know that though until after you've started working with a person. But that just because my reputation is on the line when it comes to a lot of these things, when things come back that I've done or said that I know that I haven't done or said, then that really gets my goat, I would say. But I also would say the lack of autonomy, of respecting the profession, what we do. That's a huge one for me. When you go into a situation of working with a particular client and they immediately know everything. My thought is just what is the reason why you hired me or hired my team? It's because you trust our professionalism, you trust what we know, you trust what we do. But if there's always roadblocks to that, that for me is I can't work that way.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And one of the things from this year when I was saying that there's that one experience I had where I'm not going to work with them again. They like I had to find myself convincing them of our value. And that's
Yes.
hard, like it's easier when someone wants to work with you at the beginning and they're like, I know this is valuable. I know we need help. And so it was hard because I was like, you all hired us. Like I'm doing what we're supposed to be doing, but you don't see the value. Like I don't know. Maybe you didn't need some help. I don't know. It was a complicated
Right.
situation. Um, but that being said, I think that's something that's a deal breaker for me. It's just not
Yeah.
like them not understanding the value at the beginning. It's hard to convince someone a value. I think you can show them like how helpful we can be, but it's way easier if at the beginning they already know like this is great and we need it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's one thing I was thinking. Logan, do you have a deal breaker?
Ooh, I don't know.
Logan's like, I got a lot. No, I'm
I was
kidding.
about to say the list might be kind of long. Yeah, I mean, again, for me, so much of my why is the people we work with. I say to quite like I'm a team of one.
Yes.
It's just me, but like, why do I like one gig over another? And a lot of times
Hmm.
it isn't. I loved your comment about prestige and not being worried about that because I say some of my favorite events are the small ones you've never heard of, and some
Oh
of
yeah.
the really big events that are the people at the your kitchen table think are the coolest events. I'm like, actually, behind the scenes, it was not the greatest. Like, so I'm like that doesn't necessarily make it so for me, a lot of it's just really transparency. And I think I have a lot of
Yes.
issues in any jobs I've worked where there's been a barrier to that or like, no, 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 we can't tell them that. And I'm not saying I want to tell the client
Hmm.
everything, but um, there's certain times when, especially when we're in stressful situations that I'm like, I prefer we all know what's happening right now so that we can move
Oh yeah.
forward, with the plan versus I've had some others that are like, well, we'll just, they don't need to know that this just happened. I was like, yeah, but it's going to impact that, which they are noticing. And now I have to like pretend like this isn't happening when it's happening. So, but yeah, for me, it's like a gut. I can't, I was like, I can't always put a word on it, but I can tell you
Hmm.
now I know it in the moment, especially on site where I'm like, not as happy when I come home. Like usually I'm always tired with an event, but I'm like, usually I have a little bit of a like, we did this. And,
Yes.
um, my parents love to ask me every time I do a gig, they're always like, are you gonna do it next year? And I was like, give me a couple days. I need to like get out of the event bubble and like let it percolate and let me be like, yeah, I did like it. Cause I think the most empowering thing I ever learned was that I said no to a full-time offer of a job while I'd been working for myself. And it was this realization where this person described this role. And I was like, I could do all those things. I could and probably be pretty good at some of these. I don't like those things though. Like
Mm.
I could do them, but I don't like them. And that was empowering to say no because it was like, well, it's not for me. Even if it would like the people pleasing me should have been like, yes, because that'll make you happy. But I looked through it and I was like, while I could do that, those are the least favorite parts of what I do.
Right. You're like, this is why I went into business
Yeah.
my own because I don't like to do those things right there. I get it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it goes back to what you said, Logan. Just the it goes back to the people pleasing and being able to say no, but being confident in that no. I think that's okay. And there have been times where I've decided not to bid on a particular event or not to apply or fill out, respond to the RFP because I in the moment didn't feel that it was a good fit for me or me and my team. And I can't do everything by myself. And I don't want to do some of those things by myself. So sometimes the answer is just no or no, thank you.
Yeah, well, we make the nice version. I say you save the actual horror stories for the event planner roundtable later and at drinks and
Oh
things.
yeah.
You've already touched on this a bit of some of the positives and creating, saying no creates space for other things. But what are some other like lessons or I'd say benefits you could let our listeners know about letting go of a client?
Again, I try to see the positive in all situations, and every no really does make room for a better yes. And I also think that the clients that you say no to are just as important as the ones that you say yes to. I think that that is a huge thing for you as an event planner and as a business owner, being okay with the no, but also being okay with that yes. Um, and the way that you set boundaries in the beginning really can make or break that relationship. So up front, being able to set those boundaries and laying out everything from the very beginning, and going back to trusting your gut. If something feels off, you really just have to state that and move forward in that, knowing what you need to do when it comes to that part.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of our listeners, well, it's across the board. We got folks with like a lot of experience and folks that are either entering the industry from a different industry or they're new to the industry. So let's assume that there are some listening who maybe don't have as many processes in place. They're getting started or something. What would you share with them about how they can protect themselves early on to avoid needing to exit a client relationship later? What can they either set up now or think through now?
That's such a good question, and I was thinking about that. Outside of having that crystal clear contract, really have an outline of your scope, timelines, fees, and boundaries. Like those are like, all it's like the package with your with your contract. But I think one of the things, and I probably didn't start doing this until about a year ago, having a clear and concise discovery call checklist to screen for fit. Like I have my standard list of questions that you ask when you're doing a discovery call, but add particular questions into that discovery call checklist that will let you know if they're a good fit for you. I think a clause in your contract about service pauses or termination needs to definitely be in there. After a situation with a particular client, I now have 7 new clauses that I put into my contract. And that seems so excessive, but I was just like, okay, I don't want to deal with that again. And so I ensured that I put a clause in the contract for that. And I think having a strong onboarding process that helps to set expectations. So when it's time to protect your time and your energy, that is not selfish. It really is being a smart business owner. And the right clients, I think, will appreciate that structure, but also they will know up front how to deal with you, how to work with you. And that's one of the things I actually talked to someone on my team about today. She is fearing going into a committee situation because she's worked with a particular committee member before and got a little bit of a break from this person because they've taken a little break. They weren't on any committees, and then when she saw the name come across the email, she's like, "Oh God, what do you suggest that I do?" And so I said, I think one of the things that you need to do is hop on a call with the chair and the vice chair, and really say, this is how I work. I work best if, or I work best when, and put your guidelines up front when you have that call with them so that they understand when they do one of those things that's outside of what you've stated, they're going to be like, oh, well, she did tell me that at the beginning when we talked about it. So no, I shouldn't email her at 10 o'clock p.m. and expect an answer. Or no, I shouldn't not look at my floor plans. I'll just let her deal with them when, they really should be looking at some of those things.
Those are so helpful. I think I have to add to that was on my proposals I love, and I got it from someone, is I have my scope of work, and then I actually have a section that says the client scope. So I can explicitly list out, and I can't list everything they do because they often do so much, but I have a standard maybe 5, 6 bullets that I include there, like being like, I am not like the client is sourcing the speakers and introducing Logan to the speakers once confirmed. And just certain things I
Mhm.
found has been helpful a lot of times because you're educating the client on what you do, but also it's been helpful to say what I don't do. Or but if by putting it a line, I'm like, it's a conversation. If you want me to add it in, that's a different part. Cause I think a lot of times there's an ambiguity at times with
Oh
what
yeah.
we do because all of our terms of like our titles we give ourselves as event planners and event professionals is so arbitrary that
Mhm.
a lot of people don't know what that means. Like when I say event producer, so I'm like I have to very explicitly kind of explain that. So that would just be, I think, if anyone hasn't thought through that, I think that's helpful to have somewhere in there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's actually a conversation that I will be having tomorrow with a client, just going over, because we were going to be talking about scope of work. And I'm like, I know what my scope of work is. I don't know what yours is. So I would like to have this conversation about what is it that you as staff, what are your responsibilities and roles, and see how I can marry those with my scope of work so that we are very much aligned in who is doing what and when. And I think sometimes a lack of processes and procedures or SOPs, when you don't have those, you're making up stuff on the fly. You are building the plane as you fly it, which which I don't like that. And so knowing what some of those things are up front, who's responsible for what, I think will just make the planning process be so much smoother.
Totally. So true. Like everything you've said, yes is yes. I couldn't agree more.
Yes, yes, and more yes.
Yes, yes, and more yes. All right, this has been such a good conversation. I feel like we could go in a million different directions. That would be so fun. But let's just end with, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we didn't cover today?
Oh my goodness, I don't think it's anything that we didn't cover. I will just reiterate protecting your peace. I want to reiterate having that open and honest and transparent communication, not only with your clients, but also with yourself. Just knowing what is a good fit and a right fit for you. And sometimes that just means the answer is no or not right now. Sometimes we can come back to it another time. Maybe I'll bid on that event next year or 2 years from now. But right now my gut is telling me this isn't a good fit for me or a good fit for my team. But being okay with that and standing in that.
I've made so many sounds over here on mute, Nicole, and positive, all positive. Just really, I feel like listeners go back and re-listen to this when you're having a hard time because
Right.
this is the pep talk we all need to hear. But Necoya, before we let you go, where can listeners find you to connect with you and learn more about what you do?
Absolutely. So you all can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Lightsey Events. You can also go to the website, which is www.lightsey, Lightsey events.com. And my personal Instagram, you can find me there. That's where I put all of the, not that events aren't fun, but that's where I put the crazy funny stuff. And you can see the pictures of my son growing up. He's 13 and he's tall, almost as tall as me, or almost taller than me, I should say. And that's Queen Boss Planner. So you can find me there. That's my personal Instagram. So I would love, love, love to hear from some of the followers. If you have any questions or if you have any thoughts on what we talked about today, I would absolutely love to hear it, because I too do an Instagram live series called The Lightbulb Lounge, which is on the Lightsey Events IG page. And we're actually doing one, and it's on CEO does not equal chief everything officer. So I'm very, very excited to do that one this evening. So find me there. I would love to connect with you and, yeah, see how your events are going.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Necoya.
Thank you. This was fun.
Good. Well, that brings us to the end of our episode. And Mary, you have our bonus tip this week.
I do. Okay, so for our bonus tip, it is simple, but it is true. And that is to make sure that you budget for snacks for your team. So specifically, I just worked an event. I was a freelancer, but I was in charge of a team, and they gave me a budget for $100 just to get snacks. That doesn't include any meals. It was just snacks. And I have to say, when I do bring snacks on site for other events, it's not $100 worth. It's just like a little trickle here and there. But I got $100 worth of snacks, and people were freaking out all day. They were like so happy about the snacks. And also, half of them didn't bring water. And I'm like, that's another tip. Bring water to your event. But we had water so that they could have more water. And it was one of those little things that make people happy beyond providing meals. And so that's our budget, or our bonus tip today, to budget for snacks.
I love this. Mary, you know I'm pro snack. I'm very pro, and I will get on my soapbox and fight someone over this, but they should give crew snacks. Love it. That brings us to the end of our
Love
episode.
that.
You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can send us an email at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can join us for the 2025 Better Events Conference in less than a month here by visiting bettereventspod.com/conference. You can connect with us on LinkedIn directly. Mary and I love to hear from you. Just say you heard about us from the podcast. Necoya is also open to getting connected on LinkedIn. And if you want even more Better Events content, join our private paid community on Substack, where we dive even more into some of these topics. And as always, we thank you for listening, and we'll be back in your feeds again next Wednesday.